There are many reasons to detest Republican politicians. Personally, I can't stand it that they think I'm as stupid as they are.
You're listening to The David Feldman Show, you happy, self-actualized hump.
Mitch McConnell has been serving Kentucky as a United States Senator since 1985. He is currently the most powerful Republican in the Senate and up until 2 years ago was Majority Leader. McConnell was reelected to a seventh term in 2020 with 57% of the vote. Now, one would think that's because his voters benefit by having such an influential representative in Washington serving them. But Kentucky, according to U.S. News and World Report, is currently the third unhealthiest state in America. It has the seventh worst economy, and 40% of its citizens are obese. Only an idiot would keep voting for Mitch McConnell. Asa Hutchinson is running for the Republican presidential nomination. Up until last year, Asa Hutchinson was the governor of Arkansas. Arkansas, according to U.S. News and World Report, is the second unhealthiest state in America. Judging by test scores, it also has the eighth worst public school system in America. Yet somehow the man who couldn't rescue Arkansas is going to save the Republican Party. Only a moron would vote for this moron. Nikki Haley is also running for the Republican presidential nomination. Up until 2017, Nikki Haley was the governor of South Carolina, which, by the way, currently has the seventh highest crime rate and 10th worst public school system in America. As governor, she gets an F. But the people who voted for Nikki Haley, and will vote for her yet again, are way too ignorant to know that there are grades besides an F that you can get on a report card. Republican Tim Scott has been in the Senate since 2013, 10 years. And recently, Tim Scott announced the creation of an exploratory committee so he too could run for the Republican presidential nomination. Like Nikki Haley, Tim Scott is from South Carolina, and he too has failed his constituents. You'd have to be a complete imbecile to vote for Tim Scott, which is why I'm absolutely certain that Tim Scott is voting for Tim Scott. In South Carolina, 1 out of 5 African Americans live below the poverty line, while the median income for all of Senator Scott's constituents is $50,570 a year. His African American constituents have a significantly lower median income of $32,175 a year. I would tell his voters to do the math, but they can't. One would think that because Tim Scott is African American, he would worry about black poverty. But Scott's a Republican, so he's doing exactly what he's supposed to for his community. Absolutely nothing. The secret to success for any African American Republican candidate is to make it seem perfectly reasonable to blame black poverty on black people instead of systemic and structural racism. You must be stupid to believe that. And of course, racist. If you want to make it as an African American in the Republican Party, then you emphasize personal responsibility in poor black communities to protect the personal irresponsibility in the rich white ones. Florida's governor Republican Ron DeSantis is also about to officially declare he's a candidate for president by highlighting his Florida blueprint for the rest of America. His Florida blueprint for the rest of America. By any measure, DeSantis's only blueprint is one for failure. There is not one single success story that Ron DeSantis can point to other than leading the nation in banned books and actually being a bigger menace to democracy and freedom than Donald J. Trump. DeSantis presents himself as a fighter, waging war on the woke, because he can't win the wars on crime, poverty, income inequality, or COVID. He demonizes the transgender community, passing laws demanding they go to the correct bathroom while his entire state falls into the toilet. Despite his claims of being tough on criminals, Florida has the sixth highest crime rate in America. Despite calling himself pro-life, Florida's infant mortality rate is worse than the national average. Despite Ron DeSantis' claims of being tough on drug dealers, Florida has the second highest number of drug overdoses. Florida is among the bottom 10 states in providing health care to children. It has the lowest vaccination rate in America. Florida ranks 7th in income inequality and has the 15th lowest median income. Florida workers pay more for health insurance than almost any other state. Florida ranks near the bottom when it comes to health care coverage, and it's at the top when it comes to high school dropouts. So why is Ron DeSantis so popular in Florida? Well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret about the Sunshine State. You probably didn't know this because you rarely hear about Florida in the news, but it turns out Florida has a lot of incredibly stupid people living there. Now, I know this must come as a shock. I know all of you think of Florida as nothing but oranges and palm trees, but believe it or not, Florida has a lot of idiots living there, and I'm not just talking about the Trumps. Stupid people aren't the sole voters for Ron DeSantis. Well, actually, they are. It's stupid people who vote for Ron DeSantis. Stupid people filled with nothing but hatred for humanity, including hatred for themselves, their wives, and alligator prostitutes that they have sex with. So, if you want to punish everyone, including yourself, DeSantis is your guy. And finally, we come to Donald Trump. People voted for Donald Trump because they thought the star of The Apprentice would know how to fix our economy. Like I said, stupid. Trump is stupid. His children are stupid. The people who vote for him are stupid. Donald Trump is an all-you-can-eat buffet of stupid. And yes, it's just that simple as the people who vote for Donald Trump. Stupid. More jobs were lost during the Trump administration than at any time since the height of the Great Depression under President Herbert Hoover, who, just like all the aforementioned, was a Republican. Meanwhile, there's a Democrat in the White House right now, and today they announced 253 jobs were added to our economy in April, dragging the unemployment rate down to 3.4%, the lowest since 1969. Wages in America are up 4.4% over last year. Granted, Americans need better jobs with much higher pay, but I can assure you that's never going to happen with Republicans in charge. And yet, with no record to run on, these idiot Republicans insist they have a record to run on. Only Republicans could think the rest of America is as stupid as they are. In other countries, stupid people are to be pitied. But thanks to gerrymandering and voter suppression here in America, stupid people are to be feared. Republicans are stupid. What are you, a Democrat or an moron? What are you, an moron? I love that. What are you, an moron? Well, earlier today, I spoke with former President Donald Trump. Here are highlights from my interview.
These people.
When you say these people,
these people, you know these people. They're disgusting. They're petty, David. A man is separated. He's arrested. He's separated.
You're talking about the Democrats, the Democrat Party.
Everyone you speak to, David.
They're celebrating and enjoying you being separated from your family.
From my family, from the woman I cheated on.
Right.
To the daughter that I would cheat with.
Yes.
They're so mean.
The Democrats, they have no mercy.
They're so mean, David. They're so sad. They're so mean.
I mean, what is worse when you think about it than separating a family to want to lock you up so you can't see your kids again? Who would do something like that? Just terrible.
They're so mean. They don't give charity, David. These people are just praying for me to go to whatever hell you imagine, David.
Right. You give charity. Didn't you instruct Michael Cohen?
Yes, thank you. I was trying to support single mothers. That's all. I'm just trying to help single mothers support their children, David, by
giving her $130,000.
All they have to do is stay quiet. It's the easiest job in the world, David. Easiest job. David, I created so many jobs for single women, mother porn stars, David.
To be quiet.
There's so much winning. These porn stars were winning, David. Winning like they'd never won before. And these people want me to.
There were these porn stars when you were running for president who were essentially crying to you about how unhappy their lives were, and you wanted to silence their tears. You were saying, "Hush, hush, my sweet darling.
Hush, little porn star, don't you cry. Daddy's gonna keep you quiet as long as he can buy through your silence."
It's a beautiful song.
Hush, little porn stars, baby. Don't have your nose be runny. Daddy's gonna take care of it with $130,000 cash money. I have a beautiful singing voice. I do.
You do.
A lot of people, some people don't say it, but a lot of people do say it. They say I have a beautiful singing voice. You know, I had an uncle in the singing business, David.
Really?
Nat King Trump. My uncle was Nat King Trump. It was a beautiful, his voice was like, it was like listening to a sunset, David.
Yeah. That was my interview with former President Donald J. Trump. And again, I'm being handed a note that is Smigel. I can assure you that is not Smigel. That is the 45th President of the United States. Donald J. Trump.
You're listening to The David Feldman Show. You happy, self-actualized hump.
It always does.
Okay. I think I figured out. I know what it is. Frank Conniff is here. Mm-hmm. It is incredible how long it's been since Frank Conniff has been on this show, considering he was the show. I mean...
I think the last time I was on, it was back in the that distant time when we were in the same room in the same apartment doing the podcast.
Yeah. I think you did it once on Zoom, but I've come up with a reason you haven't been on.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm mad at you and Andy Kindler and Eddie Pepitone. I just realized. Mystery guest.
That's great company to be in, to be grouped together with, to have people mad at us. And I know that Kindler, some of the best people in the world are mad at him. So it's great. Or some very prominent, famous people are mad at him. So it's an honor to be together with him. And,
we did a thing called Mystery Guest, where it was Mystery Guest starring Andy Kindler, where I was the host. You and Eddie Pepitone were the panelists, and you had a guess who our mystery guest was, and it was always Andy Kindler.
Right.
And you would ask 20 questions and try to guess.
Right.
But I would keep saying, Andy Kindler, are you ready? Please welcome our mystery guest, Andy Kindler. And then we'd start the questioning. Mm-hmm. And it was the most annoying 45 minutes of podcasting anybody's ever done. All of you hated it. And I insisted, this is our golden ticket. This is our...
Wow. And it worked out great, didn't it?
Well, you won't do it anymore.
We went on to huge careers after that.
But you were all mad at me for making you do it. And I thought it was so annoying. How could it not be a success?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's showbiz.
That's why Frank hasn't been on the show. No, I don't know why. So why do you think you haven't been on the show?
Well, I don't know why, but I do know that, as you know, there was a time when I was huge in the world of podcasting, of left-wing podcasting specifically.
Right.
I was on your show. I was on the Young Turks. I was on the Jimmy Dore show. And then for several years, I was on Sirius XM with John Fugelsang. And I've been canceled from all of those. So I don't make a big deal about it. I'm like one of the most canceled people in our culture, but I don't raise a stink about it because I'm a little older. I come from a different era. I come from the McLean Stevenson era of being canceled. And
Hello, Larry.
Yes, McLean Stevenson was canceled every year back in the late 70s, and he never complained about it. He was just stoic about it. He never said, "Oh, the woke mob doesn't want you to see Hello, Larry." He didn't get into any of that, and so I'm kind of that era where.
Well, McLean Stevenson comes from a long line of canceled people.
Of anyone who had a show.
Oh, and his uncle.
Who was his uncle?
Adlai Stevenson.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
He was yes.
To this moment. Wow.
So the Stevensons are accustomed to rejection, and they kind of
He was Adlai Stevenson was canceled at least twice. And
yes.
Maybe you could say 3 times when he 1960 as well. So,
yes. And your father.
His sitcom didn't go that well either.
Hello,
Adlai.
Hello, Adlai.
Not a big hit.
Do you know that he murdered somebody as a kid?
I did not know that. It's vaguely ringing a bell.
Yeah, he and Lucille Ball's father accidentally shot somebody to death. But
did everybody just know each other back then?
No, No, they did it randomly, Frank. It's not like Lucille Ball's father called and said, "Do you have a gun? I want to accidentally shoot somebody today." So let's talk about what you've been up to. You're going to be at the greatest comedy club in the world, Acme Comedy.
Acme Comedy at the end of this month.
With Josh Weinstein, who is a question on Jeopardy.
Weinstein, and a question on Jeopardy, and one of the funniest people, and my fellow Mystery Science Theater alumnus. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
And you're going to do a little stand-up?
Yes, we're both going to do stand-up. And, I think we're going to get on stage together and just tag team it. I think it's going to be fun.
And you're also going to be working with Trace Blue. The Mads are back. And how are you doing the Mads are back these days?
We're doing it. We were doing it. We were touring with it. The pandemic put an end to that, and then we started doing it digitally once a month, and it's been a big success. Now,
you've been doing a lot of things digitally by yourself, as I understand.
I'd rather not go into the things I do digitally by myself. That's not really. I thought I sent you that was a forbidden topic.
Okay.
On tonight's show.
So you're doing it. So if I wanted to come see the Mads are back, which is
just go. It's going to be next. Our next one is literally this coming Tuesday at 8 p.m. Go to dumb-industries.com, dumb-industries.com, and get a ticket. It's $10, and we're doing this. It's a special show because we're doing a movie called Teenage Zombies, which is as bad, just about as bad as any movie we've ever done. So it's a special event. Explain
to people who don't know what Mystery Science Theater 3000 is and what Mads are back, because it is one of the more innovative comedy.
Well, it's, a lot of people probably saw or have heard of Mystery Science Theater, which we did on Comedy Central in the 90s. And it's a show where we'd show a movie that we would describe as a cheesy movie, and by people like Ed Wood or other directors of that ilk, horror, sci-fi films, and we would add commentary to them and react to what happened. And Trace Beaulieu, he played Crow T. Robot on the show and was the other mad scientist with me on the show. He and I, for the last several years, have been doing these live shows with just the two of us. And actually, appropriate that Barry Lynn was just here because our very first gig was at an atheist convention in Memphis, like about I don't know how many years ago, but and as Trace has said many times, so it was kind of a miracle happened there.
I was thinking, how can you be an atheist in Memphis? You need all the help you can get. And you have let's quickly talk about your book.
I have a brand new book out called, it's a superhero story called Dark Apnea.
Hold it up there. Let me see that. That's great.
Dark Apnea. And he's kind of a dark, brooding superhero like Batman. And his superhero mask is a dark apnea.
And what's
a sleep apnea mask.
And what's his superpower?
His superpower is depression and just being miserable all the time.
And that's contagious.
It's a little bit, or he maybe gets it from other people too. But he's, it's basically the novel is I'm basically giving Batman the Get Smart treatment.
I see. And how could we purchase such a book?
You can also go to dumb-industries.com if you want an autographed copy that I will personally sign, and or you can go to Amazon, but I'd rather you go to dumb-industries. And my Before that, I wrote a children's novel called Billy Gillis, 7-Year-Old Screenwriter, which I guess is topical now. And this is another book of short stories I wrote called You're Ruining the Dystopia for Everyone. And I have this, and a few other books are available.
So you turn out what, a book a year now?
Probably about that, yeah.
And
I've done 9 in the last 6 years.
Incredible.
Years.
What's your discipline? How do you do it?
I just write every night, and I make realistic goals for myself, and I just do it. And the only reason I do it is because I enjoy it.
Right.
And
it's the only thing you can. It's the only thing you can control.
I can control it, and it's my creativity is in charge of everything. There's no gatekeepers. There's no one to tell me not to write something. But I think part of being prolific for me has come from the realization after years and years is that writing it really isn't that big a deal. You know what I mean? I mean, people make such a huge deal out of it, out of the struggle of it, and it does require a lot of effort, but it's something that I enjoy doing, and if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it.
So you're on the side of the studios, is what you're saying.
I want to lower the residuals for the 6 episodes a year you're doing.
What is the
Netflix.
Smallest residual you've gotten?
People, as you know, people have stories about getting residuals for 1 cent.
Yeah.
But I've been lucky. My residuals are at least, the smallest ones are in the $50 to $70 range, because all of my residuals as a writer come from when I worked on Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And I worked for 4 seasons on that. I have my name on 10 episodes.
Oh.
So that's been a constant bonanza for me. Although I don't get any bonanza residuals, but it's a show that kids love and new generations keep watching. So it's never been off the air ever. So I've done pretty good with that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk politics. You are no longer on the Jimmy Dore show.
Haven't been, no, not in a long time.
Can I ask you some personal questions about that?
You can ask them. I'll decide.
Are you still talking to him?
I've corresponded with him a couple of times. I haven't spoken to him in a long time, but it's not a situation of that we're not speaking. It's just that he's obviously very busy with what he's doing, and he's always on the West Coast, and
right.
So
I didn't think you would have a psychologically violent break with him.
No. As far as I'm concerned, we're still friends. I haven't spoken to him in a long time, but I still consider him a friend, and I adore his wife, Stephanie Zamorano.
That's what I miss the most.
I have very. If we weren't friends anymore, it would be a really awful blow to me, because I have really great memories of doing his podcast and of hanging out with him and Steph, and we had a lot of laughs and a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's some, things change, and I thought he was going to be a friend for life. He turned on me over nothing, and then I was relieved to find that that's a pattern, that I'm not special. So,
well, I don't know, maybe, but he obviously politically he's gone way. We were already, he was a Bernie guy, I was a Hillary guy, so we were. Right. And when I was on his show, and we would have debates.
I remember that
stuff.
Yeah.
But since then, I think he's gone.
Now you're too left for him.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm, some people consider me too centrist. As you know, I run a a Walter Mondale fan site on the dark web. So I've known for.
Was he a
people consider
centrist? I remember him being to the
He
left
was-
of Carter.
He, probably he was.
Hang on for 1 second. Let me just alert Jose. We're running 10 minutes behind. So I'm going to turn you off. Thank you. Sorry. That's rude, but I apologize. So what do you make of Joe Biden? Because I would assume you're going to be an unapologetic supporter. I would assume you think he's the best we can get considering what the situation is in Washington.
At this moment, obviously, I think he's the best we can get, just because of this. I think we continue as we were in 2016 and 2020, and now the country's in an emergency situation where a group of racist, homophobic, transphobic, fascists are in control of one party, and the other party
are the Republicans.
There you go. Set that one up for you. No, the other party are the Democrats, who who have decent people in them, and I think Joe Biden is a genuinely decent person. I don't agree with everything that he does, but it's like I said, it's an emergency, so it has to be him, and I just am practical about that,
Right. Right. Can I ask you a couple of questions about that?
Sure.
Why do you hate America?
Well, first of all, I went to England last year, and man, I loved it there.
Yeah.
But,
do we need a king? We have the coronation coming up, and I know that it's a symbol for colonialism and genocide, and that all the jewels are blood jewels.
yeah, I mean, it is.
But other than that,
I mean, to me, aside from the issues of the monarchy and colonialism and all those awful things, to me, it just comes down to the basic fact that Charles is a gigantic dipshit and shouldn't be praised or given honors on any level. So,
are you fascinated by the royal family? Because I am.
I'm not. I have
am.
to, even though, like, I have watched every episode of The Crown, but that show fascinates me because I find it very compelling, and yet I don't care about any of the characters on the show. I'm never rooting for anybody. Yet it's an entertaining show, so I watch it. But the royal family is not of interest to me. I'm not even familiar with that show Suits that Meghan was on. I've never even seen an episode of that. So how can I be an expert on the royal family?
Do you think we would be better off with something resembling a royal family so that our president is more like a prime minister and doesn't do the ceremonial stuff, rolls up his sleeves, and works for the American people?
Well, the way you just said it, that sounds pretty great. I mean, I actually, for most of my life, I was always a person who never thought I'd want to live anyplace else but America. But lately, it kind of seems attractive to me to live in, I don't know which country, but because they all have their serious problems, and some of the people in government in England are as bad as anybody. But
are we a cancer on the world?
Probably, yeah. And let's just hope it doesn't turn into a TV movie about us.
I'm America as fast as I can, I believe is. Oh no, that's about drinking.
That's right.
Oh, is that journalist? Anyway, so what do we do right? What does this country do right? We don't, in terms of foreign aid.
We make great culture. I think would be at the top of the list.
We used to.
We make great music. We used
to.
Oh, I think we still do, and everyone in the rest of the world just is influenced by our culture.
Isn't South Korea surpassing us culturally?
I don't know. I'm not familiar enough. I do watch some South Korean TV shows now. So
And
I don't. Extraordinary Attorney Woo is one of my favorite shows. That's a South Korean show, but I think even like from what little I know of like K-pop, which is like a big thing, that's all influenced by American pop music. You know, I mean, but it kind of all of our great culture, whether it's music or movies or literature, or theater or whatever, it all comes from oppression. You know, it's all a response to that. So that's like a double-edged thing too, that we have great culture. You know, we have the greatest music in the history of the world, but it's because we imprisoned all these people and made them come to our country, you know.
Right. So unemployment is the lowest it's been since 1969.
Not in this household.
And I think Biden created 250,000 new jobs. In April, they keep talking about this recession that isn't coming, but I don't know if we can trust the numbers. Are things as bad as people say they are? You know, if you don't have Medicare for all and 30% of your income is going towards rent and 70% either for food, insulin, or health care, how can these be considered good times?
You make a really strong case. All of those things are true, and however good things might be, they could be much better, and the reasons they're not much better is because of our government. You know,
government, or is it the Republican Party?
Well, it's the Republican Party, but yeah, it is the Republican Party's fault. But you know, and you know, I'm a Democrat, but you know, there are Democrats like Dick Durbin, you know, who just keeps saying we can only keep telling, when are you going to fix the Supreme Court? And he's like, oh, well, we'll wait to see what John Roberts does. You know, there's always been that element in the Democratic Party of just go along and get along and compromise. And Joe Biden, in many ways, was the epitome of that. But I think he's improved over the years. And you know, one thing I'll say about like Bernie running and the whole movement of I think the one positive thing, even if you're a Bernie supporter and he didn't win, but I feel like the Democrats are more to the left than they used to be, you know. And it
felt like that during Biden's first year in office, but Manchin and Sinema became the fall guy who you blame for everything. You know, I was looking at a comparison of states. West Virginia, which Joe Manchin represents, it is, I'm not attacking the people of West Virginia, but they are at the bottom in everything: health care, median income, education, life expectancy, drug overdoses. They are they are 50th in everything, and their senator is telling us that government spending causes inflation, even though Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, who was appointed by Trump, is saying inflation has nothing to do with government spending. You've got this criminal, Joe Manchin, holding up Build Back Better, the Democratic agenda. He's not serving, he's literally killing his own people through his policies. And I can't help but think this is the Democratic Party's fault for not metaphorically throwing him up against the wall and saying, listen, MFer, you either vote the way we tell you or your daughter's going to prison. Because his daughter is guilty of price fixing for something with the EpiPen. We've talked about this.
I thought you were going to be like, put him up and say, listen, MFer, if you ever want to see your daughter alive again, you'd better,
Or, you go, I'm in charge of the Justice Department. There's prosecutorial discretion. Mm-hmm. This is what Lyndon Johnson would do. You're going to pass the Inflation Reduction Act as Build Back Better the way Bernie wants it, or your daughter's going to prison for price fixing.
Uh-huh.
And suddenly Joe Manchin serves the people who elected him.
Well, that sounds good to me. That is an aspect of the Democratic Party where they're Joe Manchin, I think, Joe Biden has referred to Manchin as his friend, and it's all about, we all have disagreements, but we're going to try to work it out, and it's very frustrating and very maddening.
What would happen if this Democratic Party, and you're a centrist, how far to the left would you be willing to see the Democratic Party go?
Very far to the left.
I mean, if the Republican,
if Medicare for all is far to the left, then, but that's the thing. It's not far to the left. It's something that everybody would love. It would be an incredibly popular thing, and I think that's why calling me a centrist or calling that far left, it's not even an accurate label. But these labels, they catch on, but I would love to see the Democratic Party go as far left as it can go.
And so is the problem or the disagreement within the party over.
You know what it is, and as an old person, I hate to say this, but it's old people. It's our generation, and listen, I survived a heart attack. I don't want to die, but our generation has to die off. That's something that would help a lot, because they're all from this previous world that that's gone away, but they act like it's still the 1970s or the 1980s. The Senate just had this ridiculous Senate hearing on TikTok, like it's this horrible thing and this scourge to the world. And meanwhile, like there's a million people doing great things on TikTok. If they ban TikTok, which Democrats and Republicans are leaning towards that, it would be a huge cultural crime.
But you got to admit, the CEO of TikTok, when he testified, was pretty offensive when he opened up with, "Hey guys."
I didn't see
hey
that part
guys.
because he didn't make a TikTok about that, so I didn't see that. But my point is that my generation really has screwed things up a lot, and a lot of us are still around, and when you see all those kids in Kentucky protesting,
yes,
and it's kind of hopeful and inspiring, and I have a feeling like this younger generation, the kids today with their crazy music and their hula hoops and fax machines, this newer generation, they've had to deal with shit that we never had to deal with. They have to deal with like mass shootings as a reality in their life. Like I'm hopeful that if they get involved and if they vote, they're going to wash a lot of this away. But it's really, it's really old people like me who have screwed everything up.
Well, I mean, I missed Vietnam by a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to compare generations, but I don't know, old people, Medicare, Medicaid, OSHA.
Yeah, I mean, we did do those good things, but
I think what you need to do is shut it all down. Like Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Confidential, where he says,
Never
shut
seen
it. He walks in and he goes, shut it down, shut it all down. Somebody, the railroad strike should have happened, and there should have been no Christmas, and we should have won that war. I know you're on my side on the war on Christmas. There should have been no Christmas. The railroads are on strike. We're going without for the railway.
I agree. But nobody is willing to sacrifice anything ever. People didn't even want to people didn't want to put a piece of cloth over their face. They considered that the most oppressive thing since Anne Frank.
Right.
So people.
I want.
That would have made her just more.
No. Not 10 years ago when we used to do this show, I would have done Anne Frank jokes. The country has changed.
Right.
And so no Anne Frank jokes. There is, we could probably do a greatest hits of an hour on this podcast of my trivializing the Holocaust. But that was.
What about the hour we did of Danny Thomas jokes? Remember that?
We did.
An entire hour.
We did. If people want to go and search through the archives, it's all free. We did an entire hour of jokes about coffee tables and Danny Thomas, which is why I have to now plug St. Jude's.
Yes, and which is why that is probably as offensive as Anne Frank, because Danny Thomas is one of the great humanitarians of all time.
Yes. So if you have $5, give it to St. Jude's Hospital.
Yeah,
that's the promise I made to God. Anytime somebody does a Danny Thomas,
as you looked up through the glass coffee table and prayed.
All right, before you go, we'll plug the books once again because we're running behind schedule. Let me ask you, in front of everybody, would you agree to do mystery guest if I could get Eddie Pepitone and Andy Kindler on board?
There's nothing involving Andy Kindler and Eddie Pepitone that I wouldn't agree to do.
Okay, was it as bad as I was told? I was told by Alex, who was producing the show at the time, that the three of you were infuriated by mystery guest.
I don't remember being infuriated by it.
That you didn't think it was fun.
I don't know. I'd have to revisit that. But if Eddie Pepitone and Andy Kindler are there, I'm there. That's all there is.
Do you think there's a potential, before you go, in a weekly? Because this is what I pitched to Alex, and I didn't hear back. And I was all in on this like 2 weeks ago. I think we could actually get like Audible or somebody to fund a podcast where you and Eddie Pepitone and maybe a celebrity, not that you're not celebrities, but
we're not,
where every week Andy Kindler is our mystery guest. And it's called Mystery Guest with Andy Kindler. I host it. You and Eddie Pepitone are the panelist, along with, a rotating seat. And Andy Kindler is always the mystery guest. We do a little small talk with Andy before we start the questioning, and you each have 20 questions. I thought it was the most annoying podcast I've ever done. I think
that's a high bar.
I know. If I could talk Eddie and Andy into it, would you agree to it?
If you can talk them into it, yes, I would agree to it. If you can talk them into it.
It would be called Mystery Guest with Andy Kindler. And each week he would be the mystery guest. I think, I'm telling you, we can make tens of dollars. So let's plug away. You're at Acme Comedy Club.
Acme Comedy Club, May 31st.
I recorded my comedy album there.
Oh, cool.
Best audience, Minneapolis, best audiences.
Yeah, it's a great club. Acme,
and Louis Lee. I love Louis Lee.
He's the greatest. And the next Mads Are Back show is this Tuesday. Go to dumb-industries.com. $10 a ticket. It's a really fun show. It's a great entertainment value. My new novel, Dark Apnea, You can get there, and my other books are available as well, and they are fun. I've been told by people who've read them they're very funny, enjoyable, fun reads. If that's what you're looking for.
Thank you, Frank Conniff. Stay with me for 1 second before you go.
Thank you.
You're listening to The David Feldman Show. You happy, self-actualized hump.